Morning, sir.
Good morning. So today's class we are going to discuss on construction of root lockers. So it's very important for us to understand the construction of root lockers, and there are many steps involved in the construction of root lockers. Let us discuss these things one by one. So in the previous class we have given a brief description about root lockers and uh, what all things you have to know about it. So now here we are directly going with the construction of root lockers. If you get a problem, how to solve using these steps involved in it. So we can say that root lockers, this step one we have seen in the previous class as well. So I will just brief you out. So you can see that a root lockers will have many loci or branches in order to as the order of the system characteristic equation. So we will be seeing that here why we are doing this root lockers and all to measure whether the system is stable, unstable or marginally stable, and we are going to see all those things here in this. So since the number of poles of g of s h of s exceeds the number of zeros, the order of the equation is determined by the number of poles. So these things we will be seeing further, and this is step one, where you have taken g of s h of s is equal to k. As an example we have taken here, g of s h of s is equal to k into s plus 2 divided by s plus 1. So on the root locus, g of s h of s is equal to 1. So let us see that the function g of s h of s is k into s plus 2 divided by s plus 1. So we are taking k into s plus 2 divided by s plus 1 is equal to 1. So modulus of k, we will get it as s plus 2 divided by s plus 1 divided by s plus 2. So we can find out the poles. So I have told you that we can find the zeros and poles. We have discussed all these things before. So we are taking s plus 1 is equal to 0, you get s is equal to minus 1, and s plus 2 is equal to 0, s is equal to minus 2. So for s is equal to minus 1, we get by substituting in this, you get k is equal to 0. And for s is equal to minus 2, when you substitute, you will get k is equal to infinity. So we get the roots, so for 0 and infinity. So we can say that you can just mention those in the s plane. So we have seen j omega axis as y will be taken as j omega, and this x axis is the sigma axis. So we have to put the points whichever we have obtained, that is k is equal to 0 and k is equal to infinity at s is equal to minus 1 and s is equal to minus 2. So you know that the numerator portion will be 0 and the denominator will be poles. So we are going to represent those things at k is equal to 0, it's mentioned here at minus 1, and this we have denoted as minus 2. So we got a branch from which gets connected from the pole towards the 0. So you have also drawn the branch which connects from pole towards the 0. So this is one simple example which we have seen. Next one, we will be seeing this we have also discussed in the previous class as well. So the branch of the root is called as the, these terms are required, it is called as root loci. Okay. So we will see the step 2, what steps 2 talks about. So first thing is that you have to find out the poles and zeros, and you have to mention those poles and zeros in the S plane, and you have to draw the branch, or you can say that root loci you have to draw here with an arrow indication is the branch here, okay, which starts from the pole and goes towards the 0. So we will see step 2. So we are in the process of discussion of the steps involved in the construction of root lockers. So what this was first step where you are going to find out the poles and zeros, and you are going to mention those in the S plane. Then the second step is the number of branches, so you have to understand this carefully. So the number of branches of the root locus is equal to the poles or zeros, whichever is greater. So you will be finding out the number of branches of the root locus is equal to the poles or zero. So how many number of branches is there, we are going to determine by the number of poles as well as with the zero. So you'll be finding out the poles and zeros, and you have to see that which is greater, whether the number of poles is greater or the number of zeros is greater. So whichever is greater, where P is the number of poles. We have already explained that we are going to have a notation P for poles, and we are going to have a notation 0, Z for 0. So P is the number of finite poles and of the open loop transfer function G of s, H of s. So any transfer function you take G of s and H of s, as we have discussed before in the previous example, I have taken the function as G of s, H of s is equal to k into s plus 2 divided by s plus 1. This was an example taken here. So here we can also see that we have to find out the number of poles and number of zeros. So when the number of poles and zeros you find out, whichever is greater. So you can see that sometimes the number of poles will be 3 and sometimes the number of zeros will be 2. So whichever is greater, so number of poles is greater. So that is what you have to consider. And you are going to say that P, I may in the future I may just define P indicates the poles, and Z, if I indicate, it indicates the zero. So we are going to take the transfer function G of s, H of s, and you can say that Z is the number of finite zeros of an open loop transfer function. So P is the number of finite poles and Z is the number of finite zeros. So let us see with an example. The root locus plot for G of s, H of s is equal to k divided by s plus 1. So I am going to take one example, k divided by s plus 1. So you can make a note of step 2. Anyhow, you have completed step 1 in the previous class itself. You can make a note of step 2, that this figure, everything you have discussed in the previous class. We will be discussing one by one step, and when some problem comes in for you to solve, no, we are going to use in a systematic way one after the other each step. So we can see that so we have taken the root locus here. G of s, H of s is equal to k divided by s plus 1. So once you understand that the number of poles and number of zeros are already discussed, now you can just take this as an example. G of s, H of s is equal to k by s plus 1. I think you might have made a note of all these things. We will proceed further. So here you can see that now I am going to just take that k divided by s plus 1. You can calculate the poles as well as zeros. So you can see that how many poles and how many zeros are there in this. So you can understand that you will be having one pole because there is no zeros available here. You can see that numerator is either k means it can be 10 divided by s plus 1 or 5 divided by s plus 1, anything. So we are taking it as k divided by s plus 1. So you can see that only you have the poles, and you're going to denote the poles there. So you can see in the figure, we are going to mention this k is equal to 0, you are going to get -1. So you're going to represent a pole, and you're going to have this direction in that you're going to mention it as a root locus loci. Okay, so these are few things. Again, once again, for your understanding, I'll just make it clear for you. We have to find out the poles as well as zeros, and you can have to mention it in the S plane. So you have to mention the poles and zeros in the S plane. So in order to mention the poles and zeros in the step 1, we have already done that, and we have mentioned one pole and a zero. Here we are also finding out the number of poles and number of zeros here. So we can see that the number of zeros is not available, that is 0, or number of poles will be one pole will be available. So whichever is greater, so one pole is available, so that number is greater. And then you can say that you have number of branches, how many branches will be there, whichever is greater. So if you have like two poles and three zeros, then you can say that the number 3 is greater, so you will have 3 branches. So these are some of the points you have to make a note of it. So we can take it as an example, that is k divided by s plus 1, and you can see that how many poles are there. You can see that one pole is available. So I have plotted it here, that is k is equal to 0, and this portion I have taken it as a pole, and that is -1. And so whichever is greater, so one, how many branches are there, to see that you have to see if you have here, in this case you have 0 zeros and one pole, so one is greater, so one branch is available here. So I have also drawn the branches, so it will be more clear when we solve some numericals. So then we go further, you can draw this figure. And then step 3. So step 3, what does step 3 talks about is root locus exist on the real axis only to the left of an odd number of real poles or zeros. So that is what we are going to see. The root locus. So the root locus on the real axis, the root locus exists on the real axis only to the left of an odd number of real poles or zeros. So that is what you can see, g of s, h of s. We have taken as an example k into s plus 2 into s plus 3 divided by s plus 1 into s plus 4. So this is an example. Now we have to see that the root locus exists on the real axis only to the left of an odd number of real poles and zeros. So we are going to find out the poles as well as zeros for this. So you can just find out the poles as well as zeros. You have the function, that is transfer function g of s, h of s is equal to k into s plus 2 into s plus 3 divided by s plus 1 into s plus 4. So you can find out how many poles and how many zeros are going to be there here. From step 1 we have already seen that how to find out the poles and zeros. So you can find out the number of poles as well as number of zeros, and you try to mark it in the S plane. So we can do that. So the example is given here, k into s plus 2 into s plus 3 divided by s plus 1 into s plus 4. So let us try that. So here what it is specified, that it is root locus exist on the real axis only to the left of an odd number of poles or zeros. So that is what we are going to see. So you can make a note of these things. So once you have understood that, let us see how this goes about. So g of s h of s is equal to k into s plus 2 into s plus 3 divided by s plus 1 into s plus 4. So let us see further. So you need to find the poles as well as zeros. So let me just do that. So when you find out the poles and zeros, you will get, when you say take the zeros, you'll get s plus 2 and s plus 3 at the numerator. You know that numerator you'll get the zeros and denominator you'll get the poles. So yeah, so you're going to get the zeros at s is equal to minus 2 and s is equal to minus 3. So I have just plotted both the zeros here, and when I plot for the poles, I used to get s is equal to minus 1 and s is equal to minus 4. So I am going to plot both the poles as well. So we got the poles as well as zeros. So what you have to understand here, the step 2, can you just analyze the step 2? That is, we are going to find the number of poles and number of zeros. So here the number of poles is also 2, the number of zeros is also 2. So when you understood that the number of poles and zeros are 2, what does that step 2 talks about? Step 2 says that the number of branches of the root locus is equal to the poles or zeros, whichever is greater. So you have here, in this case, you have two poles as well as two zeros. So there is no like which is greater and all. So you know that when you have two poles and two zeros, you should know that whichever is, if it was three poles and two zeros, means 3 was greater. So what does that indicate? You should have three you will have three locus, and here you have two poles and two zeros, and you got zeros from the numerator and poles from the denominator, and you have plotted those poles and zeros in the axis. You should know that there will be two branch locus, and you are going to two branch it is available. So that is which starts from the pole towards the zero. So we are going to put an arrow mark from the pole towards the zero. Next, one more should be available, that is also available here, which has to start from the pole and go towards the zero. So you can see that you have the branches, and you have indicated the poles as well as zeros. So this is step 3 for the. So we have to understand step 1, step 2 and step 3. Step 1, we have understood that how to find out the root, how to find out the number of branches, sorry, how to find out the poles and zeros, and we have plotted that. Then we have found out how many branches are available. How many branches are available can be determined by finding out the number of poles as well as zeros. So we found that here two poles and two zeros are there. So we could find that two branches will be there. So that is what in the third example we have also seen that we have plotted the zeros and we have plotted the poles, and then the branch also we have plotted. So branch, one more condition is there, we will be starting from the pole towards the zero. Okay, so that we can see here the arrow mark is given from the pole towards the zero. So is that clear for all of you? All the step 1, 2, 3?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we will be, when you are solving the problems, all these steps will be useful for you one by one. So let us now talk about, you might have made a note of all these things. So let us then talk about step 4. We can make a note of those things. Here an example is taken, k into s plus 2 into s plus 3 divided by s plus 1 into s plus 4. So let me proceed further. So this is very much important for you to understand. Step 4, and here you are going to see the first. I'll just explain you what it is with an example. We will see that a branch of a root locus that terminates in 0 at infinity approach asymptotes in doing so. So we are going to find out the asymptotes. So an asymptote is a straight line. So what a branch of a root locus that terminates on 0 that at infinity on zeros at infinity approaches asymptote. So means what you are going to do is you are going to plot the asymptotes. I will show you with an example. So we are going to put the dotted lines there, and when you start plotting the root locus, no, or then you have to just go parallel to the asymptote later on, so that we will see that so which angle the asymptotes are available, all those things we will see. An asymptote is a straight line, so you'll be drawing straight lines, no curved lines will be there for asymptotes, to which the root locus moves parallelly and finally meets at s is equal to infinity. So this is very important for you to understand. You are going to draw the you are going to find out the angle at which the asymptotes are available, and you are going to draw the asymptotes, and that should be a straight line. And once you draw that, and after drawing that, you will be drawing root locus. So when you draw the root locus, you should make sure that it goes parallel to the root locus. So I will just show you a figure for that, which will be clear for you. This is an example. I'll take you to the figure. So you can see that. So this is what I am saying. Asymptotes means this line, this dotted lines, which is going straight line towards infinity. And we will be studying the root locus and all those things. So we have, you can have two asymptotes, three asymptotes. It can be depending on the problem, it will change. You will be finding out the angle, and then you will be doing all these things. So before going to that, I just wanted to show you that what asymptotes are all about. So we have to understand that asymptotes is a straight line, and you will be drawing parallel to the root, means it will be moving straight, and when you are drawing the root locus, no, you have to draw parallel to the asymptote and make sure that the root locus meets at the asymptote at infinity. So finally meets at infinity. So we will see that how to solve it. We have to find out few angle and all those things, as well as we have to find out how many asymptotes you have to draw, and how those things has to be taken care. So this you can make a note of it. It's not over. Step 4, you have to find out the number of asymptotes must be equal to the number of zeros at s is equal to infinity. So this is what you are going to see here, the number of asymptotes. So how many asymptotes you have to draw, whether it is 1 or 2 or 3, how many you have to draw, the number of asymptotes must be equal to the number of zeros. So I have told you that you have this function. You might have seen the transfer function, h of g of s h of s is equal to k. So as an example, I am saying k into s plus 2 into s plus 3 by s plus 1 into s plus 4. So you have also found that how many zeros are available. When you solve it, s plus 2 is equal to 0, you get s is equal to minus 2, and that you have plotted here. And s plus 3 is equal to 0, you get s is equal to minus 3, and that you have plotted here. So you have seen that the zeros here, and if you talk about the poles, s plus 1 is equal to 0, s is equal to minus 1, you have a pole available at this point at minus 1, and s plus 4 is equal to 0, s is equal to minus 4, you get another pole available at this point. So you have drawn the branches as well, which you should start from the pole towards the 0. So similarly, you need to understand the asymptotes as well. So where you are going to understand that asymptotes are drawn as a straight line, and you have to find out that at which angle you have to draw, and you have to also find out that how many asymptotes are available. And this also you should understand that the asymptotes will be drawn straight lines, and when you draw the root locus, it should meet the asymptotes at infinity. So you will be drawing the root locus very much parallel to the asymptotes, and at a certain point at the infinity, it will finally meet. Okay. So when you draw any problems and all, basically you will draw it parallel to that. We are not going to show what happens at the infinity. So then further, now here we have to see that number of asymptotes must be equal to the number of zeros. So that is also we have to see. So how to find out the number of asymptotes? So number of asymptotes can be found by using the equation P minus Z. P, I have already told you, it is number of poles, and Z is number of zeros of the transfer function. So if you have if you take this transfer function, you can say that number of poles is 2 and number of zeros is also 2. So you can use this equation to find out the asymptote. So the number of asymptotes is 2 minus 2, it will be 0. So there is no need of any asymptotes required for that kind of example. So number of asymptotes is p minus z, and number of poles minus number of zeros. What is p? P is the number of finite poles, and z is the number of finite zeros of the transfer function g of s h of s. So here this here you can see that as per the problem which you have to solve, you can find out that based on the number of poles and zeros, your number of asymptotes, whatever it is required, will change according to that. So you may need in some cases 1 or 2 asymptotes will be there, some cases you may see that 2 to 3 asymptotes are there. So it depends on the problem, and we are going to find out that how many number of asymptotes are there by using the equation P minus Z. So let me go further. Now you understood that how many asymptotes are there, but you don't know that which angle it has to be drawn. So we have to find out that this, if you get 2 asymptotes to be drawn, then you have to find out that those 2 asymptotes at which angle you have to draw it. So to understand that which angle you have to draw, you have to find out those things. So we have to find at which angle the asymptotes needs to be drawn by using the equation phi a is equal to 2q plus 1 into 180 degree divided by p minus z. So angle that the asymptotes makes with respect to the real axis can be found by using the equation phi. Phi a is equal to 2q plus 1 into 180 degree divided by p minus z. What is q? Q will be 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. So it can be a number 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. So we are going to find out the angle at which the asymptotes make with respect to the real axis. So you are going to see that at which angle. So that I will just show you that for your better understanding. So you can see that this is the angle like 60 degree, 180 degree, or 300 degrees. So these are the asymptotes, which are these dotted lines which indicate these are the asymptotes, and These are the asymptotes which are drawn as well, but you should know that which angle it is drawn. So to understand that which angle it is drawn, we have to make sure that we have to find those angles. So here this is the equation in order to find that angle, that is phi a is equal to 2q plus 1 180 degree divided by p minus z. Q is 0 1 2 3 etc. 2q plus 1 into 180 degree divided by p minus z. What is q? Q is 0 1 2 3 etc. P is the number of poles and z is the number of zeros. So those things we have already discussed now. So you can make a note of those things as well in order to find out which angle you have to draw the asymptotes. And then now next further we will be seeing that, see, we understood that which angle you have to draw as well as which how many asymptotes are there, but we don't know that from where to start. See, we don't know that whether to start from this point, how to understand how to start from this point. So that also we need to calculate at which point you need to start the asymptotes. If then that point at an angle 60 degree you need to draw an asymptote. That point at an angle 180 degree you draw an asymptote. That point at another angle 300 you draw another asymptote. So you have to find out the number of asymptotes. You have to also find out the uh, angle at which it has to be drawn, and you have to also find out which is the point where it has to start. So you can make a note of these things, then that also we will discuss. Step 4. So we understood that asymptotes are needed. We also understood that how many asymptotes are there by using the equation P minus Z, that is number of poles minus number of zeros. We also know that how to find out the number of poles and zeros. So how to find out the number of poles? You can see that from the numerator you will get the zeros and from the denominator you will get the poles. So the number in this case there is 2 poles and 2 zeros in this example. Okay, so you know all those things and you can just substitute in the relevant equations P minus Z and you can find out the number of asymptotes. Similarly, you can find out the angle as well, that is phi. Have you completed? Let us move further. So now we understood the angle that the asymptotes are making with respect to the real axis. Now further we have to also find out where the exactly the asymptotes are placed. So we are going to see that so you understood till here. Let us move further. Is that clear for you till here? Sai, it's clear for you? Any doubts are there?
No, sir. Clear, sir.
Okay, fine. So now let us have you completed? All of you have completed till here. Let us move further.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we are going to see that how the centroid or which point you have to start the asymptote. So the point at which the asymptote starts on the real axis is called the centroid. So the point at which the asymptotes starts on the real axis is called the centroid. So we need to find out, as I was discussing with you, this point at which the point at which this is called as a centroid, where the asymptotes will start. So the point at which the asymptotes start on the real axis is called centroid, and it is given as with the help of an equation, that is sigma A is equal to summation of finite poles and summation of finite zeros divided by p minus z. So summation of finite poles. So how many poles and zeros are there? You are going to take the summation of that, and you are going to, yeah, summation of poles minus summation of finite zeros divided by number of poles minus number of zeros. We have already found those things before, so we are going to use that. So this is the equation you have to use in order to find the centroid. So we will take an example, and we are going to see that how this can be drawn. The step 4, if there is a problem like g of s h of s is equal to k divided by s into s plus 1 into s plus 8. So let us take an example and simplify that. So sigma is given as finite poles minus finite zeros, gives a summation of finite poles minus summation of finite zeros divided by p minus z. So all of you understand with an example. So let us take this example, k divided by s into s plus 1 into s plus 8. So how many poles are there? How many zeros are there? In this function, k divided by s into s plus 1 into s plus 8, how many zeros are there? Numerator is 0 and denominator is poles.
Zero, zero, sir.
Yeah, 0, 0, and how many poles are there?
3 poles.
3 poles are there. So we have to substitute that in the equation. Number of asymptotes is equal to p minus z. The same equation what we studied before. Number of asymptotes is equal to p minus z, and uh, that is 3 is p. That is number of poles is 3. We get 3 poles here, and how many zeros you get is 0. So 3 minus 0, and that will be 3. So first in step 4, first step is to find out the number of asymptotes. That we got it as 3. Indicates that 3 asymptotes are to be drawn in the plot. Okay. So you need to draw 3 asymptotes. Now you don't know that where these asymptotes are placed, at which angle. So we have to find out that which angle these asymptotes are placed. So you have to also find out that the centroid, where the asymptote is placed. So let me just calculate the centroid. Centroid is to find out by using sigma A, summation of finite poles minus summation of finite zeros divided by p minus z. P minus z is 3. So let us calculate the finite pole sum and finite zero sum. So that is what I am going to take you through. Just listen carefully. So what are the poles here? Poles available here. S is equal to 0, and you will get S is equal to 1. So you can see that what are the poles available. You will get S is equal to 0. You will get S is equal to next one 1, and you will also get S is equal to 8. So these are the poles available. How many zeros are there? There is no zero. So these are the poles which you can see that it is available. So S is equal to 0, S is equal to 1, and S is equal to 8. So these are the 3 poles. So understand that summation of finite poles. Summation of finite poles means you have to take the summation of that. So how you are going to take it? S is equal to 0, you will get S is equal to minus 1, and S is equal to minus 8. Okay, you are going to get 0, minus 1 and minus 8. So summation of finite poles. So what you will get? 0, next is plus minus 1 plus minus 8. So you got summation of poles as 0 minus 1 minus 8. Summation of finite zeros. Is there any 0 available? It is not available. So we have just put it as 0, minus 0. Pole minus 0. Either you can write it as 3 minus 0 or directly you can write it as 3. So 3 is number of poles and 0 is number of zeros. So 3 minus 0. Let us simplify that. So minus 8 minus 1, you will get minus 9. Minus 9 divided by 3, you will get it as minus 3. So you are going to get here minus 3. Minus 3 indicates that the centroid. So how you have to plot here? You can see here this point. This point has to be minus 3. So that is called as sigma A is equal to minus 3. At this point it is minus 3. Does that over? It's not completed. We have already found two things, that is centroid we calculated as well as number of asymptotes we calculated. So we understood that the number of asymptotes is 3 and centroid is minus 3. Now we have to find out that the angle made by the asymptote with respect to the real axis. So what is the equation to find out the angle made by the asymptote? It is 2q plus 1 into 180 degree divided by p minus z. So let me calculate the angle. So the angle made by the asymptote with respect to the real axis can be calculated using this equation, 2q plus 1 into 180 degree divided by p minus z, and q you know that it is 0, 1, 2, 3 etc. and p minus z in this case it is 3. So you can just substitute, first you can substitute q is equal to 0. So substitute q is equal to 0, you find out what is phi a. Then substitute q is equal to 1. Find out what is phi a. Substitute q is equal to 2. Why we are doing only 3? We have to do only, you have to only see that 3 asymptotes are there. So you need only 3 angles. So first you are going to substitute q is equal to 0, then q is equal to 1 and q is equal to 2. That's enough. Because only you will have 3 asymptotes. If you have 4 asymptotes, you might have substituted q is equal to 3 as well. So you can complete that by substituting the value of q as 0. So what is the angle you are going to get? So you can solve it. You will get, when you substitute q is equal to 0, you will get phi a is equal to 60 degree. Why? Because p minus z is already 3. So pole minus 0 is 3. You can substitute all those things. 2 into 0 plus 1 into 180 degree divided by 3 minus 0. So you get it as 60 degree. So what is the value when q is equal to 1? What is the value when q is equal to 1? Yeah, what is the value?
180 degree.
180 degree. And when q is equal to 2?
300.
Very much correct. Okay, it's perfect. So you are going to get qa is equal to 60, qa is equal to 180 when it is q is equal to 1, and q is equal to 2, you are going to get qa is equal to 300 degree. So we got the angle, we got the centroid, we got how many asymptotes are there. Now it is just for us to plot it in the axis. So we are going to plot, you can make a note of all these things and then we will see that how it is plotted. So you can draw the sigma as well as j omega axis, and mark the first you have to mark the centroid. Mark the centroid minus 3. So all of you can make a note of these things and try to plot it. So draw the sigma as well as j omega axis. You have to plot it in the S plane, and we are going to see that. This is an example. when numericals comes for you, you can plot it in the same way as per the requirement. So let me take you to the plot. I have drawn the j omega axis as well as sigma. So I got first step, what I have to do is I have to draw sigma A. Sigma A, I got it as -3. I have to put this point here. Then I know that there are 3 asymptotes. From the calculation, I know that there are 3 asymptotes, as well as I know that the 3 asymptotes are placed at these particular angles 60, 180 and 300. So I have to put dotted lines for each asymptote. So I am going to put at 60 degree, I am going to draw this dotted lines. This is called as asymptote 1. So AS1 I have denoted. Again 180 degree, I am going to plot another asymptote, that is AS2. So keep all this protractor and all these things with you so that you can take the angle and you can plot it. So this it is AS2, and next angle is 300 degree. So 300 degree I have taken and I have plotted AS3, asymptote 3. So I got asymptote 1, 2 and asymptote 3, and then you can start the process. You can also see that I have plotted poles at 0, -1 as well as -8. You have plotted the zeros at poles at -0, -1 and -8, and you can put the branches as well. So this is what you have completed. So still there are few more steps to be discussed. You can make a plot of this asymptotes, and we'll be discussing from step 5 in the next class. Okay, thank you. Is that clear for all of you? Step 1, 2, 3 and 4. Is that clear for all of you? Step 1, 2, 3 and 4.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's for today. We will meet in the next class with step 5 and continuation of that.